All we learned today is that Dabo Swinney likes the sound of his own voice, but we honestly already knew that.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast out there. I'm your host, Stephen Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now it's the number one sports podcast network in America because of fans like you taking in content like this. Thank you very much for that. On today's show, we're going to talk about Dabo Swinney going on his little bloviating rant that he went on, this meltdown that describes the transfer portal basically and gives a whole bunch of unprovable things that are basically hearsay and outright deniable regarding the Luke Ferrelli recruitment. And the biggest cheerleaders and hope that this goes nowhere is probably LSU for obvious reason because of what happened last Thursday as well. And that would have probably broke Dabo Swinney. So all of this and more on today's Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Remember, we're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. And the special hello to the insiders and everydayers who make the show what it is. Your team every day. All right, so one thing's interesting. Clemson put out the thing that they're going to talk about all of this, and Dabo Swinney was going to get out there and do his preacher thing, his Tyler from Spartanburg thing. Hey, if you're not proud with 5-6 this season, go find somebody else because I win. That character talking about a situation, well, that happened today. And the result of which was pretty much threefold. First of all, it was filled with unprovable facts based on a log that was done likely after the fact to where you tried to put on information to make a timestamp sound a little bit better with only a couple of nuggets of truth that are sitting in there, and everything else is unprovable and deniable, which means this isn't going anywhere regardless. They're going to talk about it. They're going to bloviate about it. All of this, it's not going anywhere. This is all about being as loud as possible, getting eyes on the situation in hopes that the people in Congress actually do something, because that is the part that I hold nothing against Dabo for. I knew that he would be loud and all of that, but at least getting the attention on what is going on to the people in Congress that can do something about this situation, that is actually a good thing. But the actual merits of this case, it's not there. There's nothing that is provable. It's all deniable. It's like one conversation talking with the dad and he agrees with what Pete Golding's saying. The whole case goes out the window. But I get that you feel aggrieved, Dabo. I get that you feel like you got taken advantage of by little Ole Miss. But I will say this, and I want to thank you for this. You provided a couple of quotes that absolutely need to be framed. Pete Golding needs to talk about that in every recruiting pitch, and it needs to be prominently displayed to everybody because you just basically made Ole Miss even a more transfer portal attractive team than they already were. And this is what I mean. Whenever he said that, hey, we heard, and he showed me a text message. He didn't actually have the text message, but he showed me a text message to where Pete Golding texted him during class and said, what is your buyout? We know you're signed. What is your buyout? And then he sent a picture of $1 million contract. If that's not one of the most baller things that you've heard that have coaches done, that is amazing. All that is Dabo Swinney admitting that Ole Miss is rich. That's all that was. Just Dabo saying, well, Ole Miss has money. Little Ole Miss has money. And I don't know that we can handle what's going on because he was enrolled in classes. He didn't sign any financial paper or rev share papers. He didn't sign any NIL papers. He just signed a scholarship. And for anybody that has any degree of notion about the financial aid paperwork with the college, this goes back to recruiting, heck, over the last 20 years. Where they talk about if you sign financial aid papers, it locks in the school to you, but it doesn't lock in you to the school. And Ole Miss continued to play until the echo of the whistle and got Luke Ferrelli to transfer to Ole Miss for what it sounds like, if it's true, which we don't know it is, but he's saying 2 years, $2 million, so $1 million per year. Pretty good deal for the ACC Defensive Player of the Year, if you ask me. So Luke Ferrelli transferred to Ole Miss. He's already gone through team meetings and all of that stuff. He's in school and all of that stuff. But Dabo keeps going. And it gets kind of funny and almost like Jilted X, to where it's like, hey, give their general manager a call. His name's Austin Thomas. I know that their head coach has only been there for like 4 weeks, so I will give him a little grace. I will take advantage of this situation as best I can, but I will show mercy on this Ole Miss football coach if he just stops doing what he's doing right now, because I am the all-powerful Dabo Swinney, and I have the ability to control all that is around me. So just call Pete Golding and let him know that if he stops right now, I will go easy on him. But if he continues, I'm going to turn him in, and it's going to be bad, because I'm Dabo and you're just a coach that has been a coach for 4 weeks. So you better listen to what I'm saying. So obviously Austin Thomas replied back this, like, Pete does what he wants to do. And he's talked about Austin Thomas like, oh, my friendship with you is more important than the Luke Ferrelli commitment. And it's like, A, you've never met a college coach in your life if you think that's true, because anybody that they're recruiting at that one particular moment is the most important thing in the world, especially over a general manager in another conference, period. Coaches will absolutely go ruthless and do this. So the next thing that impressed me, this showed how all in Pete Golding was. If you want a situation that impresses the Ole Miss fan base, this is it. This was that situation. And when you look at what was going on, he played to the echo of the whistle. And Ole Miss is fine in all of this. I'm not expecting anything to come of it at all, other than the fact that you draw attention to it for 48 hours or so, and then it goes away whenever the next gambling scandal breaks or the next time a professional basketball player decides to be eligible. Then everything's going to go away, and it's going to be just like the Miami-Wisconsin situation, to where Wisconsin was like, Miami's tampering with our student athlete that signed, and then that student athlete just not only disenrolled and went to Miami, he was eligible at Miami and started in the national semifinal against Ole Miss. Long story short, nothing's going to come of this. But like I said earlier, I do not fault Clemson with being loud on this. I kind of fault them for the holier than thou aspect of what is going on, but that just comes with Dabo. You remember the Tyler from Spartanburg and all of that. It is just kind of what he does. And the irony for me is, if he would have been there in the Manning Center on Thursday night when all of that was going on, it was an absolutely nuts night. Everybody will talk about what went on that night. $2 million deals and cars going to everybody. It was almost like speed dating. That would have made Dabo's head explode. And that is the environment that honestly Ole Miss is living in right now. They're having to deal with that, but they also have to dish that out, because if you don't do it from time to time, you run the risk of getting fired and cost yourself multi-million-dollar deals. The pay jump from being a college head coach to being a college assistant coach, pretty severe. So I get it where Clemson's coming from. You had your bloviating moment and all of that. Now let it stop and go on. Now, and if it goes to a lawsuit or anything like that, you're going to lose. It's going to happen, because Luke Ferrelli has the right to go wherever he wants to go, and he hasn't signed a contract. Hasn't. They've tried to argue for years that scholarship papers were a contract that couldn't be broken or something like that, and not once has it held up. So Ole Miss going to be absolutely fine. Dabo Swinney, an absolute blowhard. So what happens next for this Ole Miss team, and what happens next with this Clemson team that is going on? We'll talk about that in just a second. FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action, because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like most. Open your profit boost first thing on game day and see what boost you want to apply. The boost lets you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. The boost give you more juice on the bets that you already like instead of forcing you to bet something new. Every play feels a little bigger, and the boost makes your bet feels that way too. You make your picks, then apply your profit boost and go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack on every NFL playoff game today. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment on this video. Subscribe to the podcast on whichever audio podcast you're listening to and give it a 5-star review. It costs nothing, but it helps keep all of this free. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in America. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club and get Locked On Ole Miss with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more. All for just $5 a month or $50 per year. Go to lockedonolemmiss.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. So as soon as this press conference happened, by the way, started reaching out to people around the program that are pretty tight around there. It's like, hey, on this thing right here, is there any truth to it? Is there anything that Ole Miss needs to worry about moving forward? And I got back, no, absolutely not. There's not. And in that, not only that, he said, if anything does come out of it, you probably don't want to be the team in Baton Rouge with what that looks like. So their biggest fans that nothing comes of this are the people in Baton Rouge. But that was an interesting statement of what was going on. But Ole Miss doesn't think anything will come of this. There will be bloviating, there will be threats, there will be legal stuff, but nothing's going to happen according to them. So we're talking about Luke Ferrelli getting ready to be the starting linebacker for Ole Miss in 2026, just like the guy from Miami started at safety, even though there's a legal challenge pending right now about him. Dabo Swinney is talking about coaches speaking out about tampering. If you see it, if you see something, say something, which is, very interesting. That's like New York City poster from like 1985. If you see something, say something. And he says, do this and we can stop this from going on. But here's the problem, Dabo. Here's the real of what's going to happen, or what has happened. These same coaches that you want to call out the tampering and you want them not to tamper knows that they will lose their job if they don't tamper. You understand that everybody does it. And I understand that Clemson might not be as adept at it and understand what is going on potentially whenever you have basically ignored the transfer portal for about 5 years. And now that you see that you need it because you're winning 5, 6, 7 games a year, all of a sudden you're freaking out a little bit. And now you want to play the games in the transfer portal, but that's a different world, because in the transfer portal, it's all about speed dating recruiting. It's like 2 weeks, bam, bam, school starting, all of this stuff. And you got 2 weeks to make it work, of a window being open to where you can get talent for your roster. And every coach in the country knows that if you don't get talent because of ethics or anything else, you're in a situation that you're going to have a hole in your roster and you're going to be exploited during the course of the season, and you might get fired. That is why no coaches are going to step up and point out tampering in the transfer portal. It's not going to happen, because if you don't do it, you get fired. Ethical coaches are not coaching right now. And we've seen Dabo go from a national championship level coach to a Belk Bowl level coach. Well, actually, he was looking up at the Belk Bowl this year, but still, my point stands. If you don't play the game a little bit, and this is the game that the NCAA has put out to everybody. Everybody knows the rules, and the rules are there's no rules. It might be written down, but there's no way to handle it. And if for some reason that Dabo is right with all of his bloviating hearsay and he said, she said, and all of that he put out in his press conference today, and it goes through and it actually works and they get Ole Miss, what do you think is going to happen then? Ole Miss is going to roll over on everybody. Ole Miss is going to roll over on Clemson. That's the way this works. Whenever you start using lawfare, be ready to use lawfare, because there is no way to absolutely be right moving forward when it comes to that. So let's talk about this case real quick. Everything that we heard from Dabo Swinney was a logbook that was put together after the fact. And it had to be after the fact because he didn't think he was going to Ole Miss until later on in the process that was in their log that they gave you. So that was after the fact. So you're dealing with the facts of actually remembering times, dates, and conversations immediately. You saw supposedly text messages from time to time. I saw no physical copies of those text messages available. You would need those to show down the road. And you took shots at Ole Miss for how unorganized they were and how ill-prepared they were to prove your point that all of this would need to go on. It's all hearsay. It's all second and third hand information. It's all not worth a whole bunch. And it's certainly not worth anything that would win. Now, I get it. You feel aggrieved, Clemson. You do. Ole Miss feels aggrieved for the two starters that they lost because of Thursday night's crap. Okay? Everybody does it. We have a saying, the portal giveth and the portal taketh away. And nobody faults you for being loud about it, because as I have said for the better part of a week, anytime you feel aggrieved, you have to be loud, because that's the only way that Congress is going to hear this. And eventually you will hit the event horizon to where they will do something about it. But until they do, it is like Lane Kiffin and his injury faking situation. Whenever everybody was doing it to Ole Miss said, if you keep doing it, I am going to weaponize it until something gets done about it. And that is exactly what happened. Right now, people are weaponizing this transfer portal cycle and tampering because until something gets done, there's no rules. And if there's no rules, there can be no enforcement. And if there's no enforcement, there's no anything. There's no governance. There's no whatever can happen until the point where maybe the SEC and the ACC and all of them start governing themselves. You're in a position to where there's not a lot you can do. Now, you can make phone calls. You can send angry messages. You can talk about what's going on. And you might think the rumors, hearsay, and all of that is enough to prove a case. But believe me, it's not. It's not. And as soon as any case happens, they're just going to litigate it away. And it's absolutely not to stand up in a court of law, because nothing was done illegal except for Clemson's player wanting to move and Clemson trying not to allow that to happen. That would be the only legal crime that happened if, for some reason, Luke Ferrelli was not allowed to transfer. Anyway, when we come back, we are going to look a little bit at this transfer situation, maybe take a couple more shots at Dabo Swinney, which Lord knows he deserves it. And we'll talk about how the biggest fans that Ole Miss might get through this with no penalty whatsoever, the LSU Tigers. We'll talk about that in just a second. You know, tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done by a trusted local expert start to finish without stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2 to self-employment forms, and they work on getting you every single deduction. You can upload your documents directly to the app and go about your day. Get the updates all single day long. It's a huge time saver, and it gives you real peace of mind knowing that an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can go on and have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th and take taxes off your place and get back to your life. So visit turbotax.com/lockedon, our local, to book your appointment today. So, like I said, I reached out to sources close to the program, pretty close. I mean, really tight. And I said, okay, we heard all the bloviating. We heard everything that was going on. Does Ole Miss have anything to worry about? And the answer was no, absolutely not. And then it said, and if they did, the people in LSU would be absolutely wrecked about it, because if it's going to happen, things flow downhill a little bit. And Ole Miss lost 2 starters on Thursday that didn't just happen. One of the players was actually signed. So whenever you look at all the stuff that is going on around college football outside of the little bubble that you're in, nothing is going to come from this case. Nothing is going to be in a position to make you suffer or anything like that. You just get to be a fan. And we talked about Pete Golding being a star and Ole Miss being viewed as rich and Ole Miss being in a position to take this to the next level. Dabo Swinney was absolutely right. Ole Miss currently has the number 2 transfer portal in the whole transfer portal, according to 24/7 Sports. They're behind LSU, who right now has about a $50 million roster and trying to buy a national title, or I guess in Lane's case, buy themselves into the playoffs, because he's never done that before. But when you look at the Clemson Tigers and Dabo Swinney and all of this, it's just an echo of the conversation that was being had between teams in 2008, before NIL and the transfer portal and all of that was a thing. They desperately want to put the toothpaste back in the tube, and I get it. I understand all of that. But can we not bloviate about all of this? Can we not just throw out hearsay and make a pretend logbook to make it sound factual? Can we not do this to where we're just talking about stuff without putting physical proof out there for people to see, just saying, trust me, bro, we have it? Can we not do that? Can we not do a Tyler from Spartanburg moment? Can we not talk about, hey, I went 5-6 this year. If you want a coach that wins more, get him, I guess. I'm not going to quit. And it's like, okay, can we not? I get that you're loud. I get that you're nuts. I get all of that stuff. That kind of Southern Baptist preacher is your persona. I get all of that. But this isn't a winnable fight for you. Now, you're trying to get public opinion on your side, but the reality is public opinion doesn't matter. For a couple of minutes, they want Ole Miss to fail. They're going to pile on Ole Miss, but nothing's going to happen to Ole Miss, and nothing is going to change with Ole Miss. All that's going to happen is you're going to feel a little bit better about the things that you said, move on about your day, and go 6-5 next year. That's it. That's all you're going to do, Clemson. That is the end result. I went to my what is the machine from Big, to where you can see the future? That's what it was. Saw it. Absolutely. You brought back Chad Morris as an offensive coordinator. I mean, come on. So let's see exactly how all of this plays out, because I assume that it's going to play out well for Ole Miss. I assume that Trinidad Chambliss is going to come back to Ole Miss. Once the legal system gets a hold of it, it's almost a certainty at this point. Anything that's in Congress is not going to take effect before something like that can happen. So Ole Miss will be a top 5 preseason team in 2026. They will have Luke Ferrelli starting at middle linebacker, and they're going to be lining up against teams like LSU and Texas and playing big-time football games. That's going to happen. And no amount of hearsay and bloviating and all of that is going to change that. Dabo Swinney, I get that he's protecting his program. I get that. I get that they're being loud because you're trying to get attention of the power brokers in Congress. I've done the same thing, okay? I get it. But now it's time to put the ball down and go home. Thanks for tuning in to today's Locked On Ole Miss podcast. We're going to continue to talk about the transfer portal all week long, so make sure you subscribe and follow the show so you can get all of the latest episodes. We're on all the social channels as well, so check out that as well. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Locked On Ole Miss ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more is available. Head to lockedonolemist.supercast.com to join the club. And for those of you on video, we're going to send you on over to the 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, you can make sure your second listen is Locked On College Football or Locked On SEC. Hotty toddy, everybody, and I hope everybody enjoyed the press conference and all of that, because I think that's about the last that you're going to hear of it. So we'll talk to you later. Hotty toddy.